is Amy. I'm a wellbeing practitioner in the NHS. If you're new here, I'm sharing how I'm trying to find balance as I navigate going from one child to two, managing my garden and mental health, and moving our family to Sweden. If any of that sounds interesting to you, do stick around, like and subscribe. If you've been around here before, you will recognise that my background's very different. We are now in Sweden, which is very exciting. We're doing a month-long living in Sweden to see if we really want to go. So do look out for that video next month. I think I'll be working on that one, and we'll give you an update on everything that's happened. But for now, we're going to be looking a little bit at relationships in this matrescent series. We're talking about all the different things that change when you become a mum, and your relationship changes big time. It takes a big hit. And actually, like, a fifth of relationships break down within a year of the birth of a child. That's nuts, a fifth of them. And there's a lot of reasons for it. First, having a baby is really hard. And if there were any issues in the relationship before the baby, like arguments, infidelity, poor work ethic, they're just going to get worse if you throw a baby into the mix. Also, the protective factors in your relationship, like communication, intimacy and time together, that all takes a hit when you have a baby. Not to mention the fact that you're sleep deprived and not thinking clearly. And then if you also have depression or anxiety and little support from your partner, that's really going to affect the relationship. Now, I don't know about you, but I prepared so much for my first baby. I knew in minute detail the finances, what we needed, what we could skimp on, the exact date that our little embryo was going to be going to nursery. I had his name signed up for nursery before he was even born. But what I didn't prepare enough for was the change in my relationship. And whilst we are a really strong unit, it's work to maintain. Like, it's not hard work, but it's work. I think we have to be very deliberate based on our experience with our first child, exactly how we maintain that relationship. And it's interesting because someone I was chatting to at church actually asked us for advice on going from 1 to 2 kids. And I said, well, everything with your baby will be easy. You've done that before. You'll both make sure to spend enough time with your eldest so they don't feel left out. That's all right too. The hard bit is making sure your relationship doesn't take a hit by prioritising spending time with each other. And I mentioned in my last video that can actually be quite hard for us because we have quite an international family. But as our youngest has more nights where he sleeps through, even though it's not consistent, it's never consistent, we can kind of hang out and play games together a bit more and make time for that, even if we can't get a babysitter to go out and about. On that note, I'm reminded of how, like, our friends recently got married and we were so honoured to be invited to their wedding. But part of the service were vows for the friends and family to take. We actually responded and took vows alongside them to support them in their relationship. And I mentioned last video that it takes a village to raise children and to support healthy relationships to thrive. And what I mean by that is not just about babysitting, it's about keeping the couple accountable. One of the best pieces of advice I got about managing the relationship change after baby, and believe me, this was hard to swallow as a control freak, but it came from my mum and it came from a place of love. She sort of gently said to me one day, it's like, don't advise Tim too much, a bit critical. This idea was, don't advise your partner too much on how they care for their child. It's their child as well. Now, obviously, if they're going to be putting your child in danger, you would say something. But if it's small fry stuff, let it go. Like, so what? You know the best way to put your child to sleep. Let your partner figure it out too. Like, let him get on with it. And I think it did really help. And it helped me mostly because I already knew I was going to be splitting leave with my husband. He's got a really great family leave policy with his company, and so I knew from the outset that he was going to have to be the primary carer for at least 4 months, and he needed to find his own groove looking after our eldest. And putting that responsibility on him, I think, actually boosted his confidence, but also mine, because I could see what a great dad he was when I just left him to it. We also had quite frank discussions about the mental load, and sometimes if I feel like things are becoming a bit like unbalanced, I'll mention it to him and we'll talk about the split at different times. So for example, when I was pregnant, there were certain jobs that I couldn't do because I was pregnant, like giving the cat her medications or cleaning the litter trays. But now that I'm not pregnant, I could do those jobs. But the question is it the right chore for me? Now I do the food shop because he finds it really overwhelming, because we shop twice a month. It sounds crazy, but it saves us money. But he would find it really overwhelming doing that big of a shop in one go. Whereas I'm like, I can handle it twice a month. And so I've found the easiest way to reduce the mental load is to just have those assigned chores. I don't nag him to do his chores. He just sees when they need doing and does it. But we were talking sort of about the relationship change, and it's interesting seeing and talking to some of my friends who have also become mums around the same time, and seeing what's changed for them. Like, I know some parents who have actually stopped sleeping in the same room because the sleep disruption was such a big factor in their relationship that they were all happier with that kind of setup. But at the same time, and this is kind of an inside thought, I kind of felt like the mum was left with the majority of the mental load and responsibility, both during the day when the partner was at work and then again at night when he'd go and sleep in a separate room. I guess some of those things are unavoidable. It's funny because I actually sent this script to my husband because obviously I'm talking about him. I just wanted to run it by him. And he said that actually remembering each stage is just a phase has really helped him. He said, "This too shall pass." That was his motto. And actually, like, for this family that I'm kind of referencing, I think it probably is just a phase. Eventually that child's going to go and sleep in their own room, and the parents will be able to go and sleep together again, and that'll be nice. So I think that really helps. So I also talked at the beginning about supporting each other, especially when there are health issues. So me and my husband were involved with perinatal, so we actually came up with a plan ahead of the birth for how he was going to support me. I was very grateful that I didn't struggle too much with my mental health this time, and I think it was all because of how I was preparing for that, but also because of the support that I had from my husband. So we were planning for this really big dip in my mental health, because that's kind of what happened with my eldest. So yeah, he was really supportive, and that helped a lot. But I was also really aware that the last time my husband went on leave with our eldest, he also found it really difficult. And this time he's decided to do some more kind of structured activities to get him out of the house. But I think what I'll do is actually take a leaf out of his book when I go back to work, and I will do some structured activities outside of the house on evenings and weekends so that he can have some respite too. He'll also make sure to get out with his friends, which I think helps. He has something called the Tired Dads Club where he can moan freely about me if he needs to. And all of those things, really do help with the relationship change. Now, the one thing I haven't talked about yet. When it comes to intimacy, again, we have to be really intentional about that too. I think it's really easy after you've had a child to just slip into being roommates if you don't. My husband said that what he liked about this script was that I'm kind of saying the quiet parts out loud, but I'm not entirely sure he'll like this next bit because I added it after. But some of the other things that I've talked about do feed into this. So if I'm talking about like the mental load, if I've taken on more of the mental load, more of the chores and the housework and the childcare, I've turned into his mum, and that's actually a real mood spoiler. I'm not going to be in the mood for that. I was just editing this video, so I'm jumping on very quickly because I realised I forgot to say something, which is actually that there is research that shows that women find men who do housework sexier. So when I say this next comment, it's peer-reviewed. So, you know, partners, if you want to get her into the mood, do some of the housework. It really is, you know, it's gonna work. Trust me on that one. And the other thing that we can do to kind of support intimacy is, you know, like how a car needs a bit of gas to get going. It needs to kind of have the engine full in order to be able to rev it up and move it along. If you're not doing the legwork, as it were, to get her into the mood and or even to get him into the mood, I think guys are probably the same. But, you know, it's not like you can just click a switch and boom, off we go. You have to have other types of physical closeness, like before you can get to the point where you're going to be intimate, right? And that can just be spending time cuddling, spending time chatting, having a little smooch. We actually realised our couch is kind of like quite separated because we've got one where two sides go up. And we realised it was adding quite a bit of distance. So like when we'd sort of watch TV together, it was like he was at one end of the couch, I was at the other end of the couch, and we were like, where have you gone? And so actually when we replace it, we're planning to just get a bigger one so that we can just snuggle like we used to. So yeah, hopefully that'll help. Anyway, that's my take on how to manage relationship changes postpartum. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey there.